Good morning, 7 East. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Welcome to the 22nd edition of LEPRE Radio. Short episode for you today because I know you all have an assignment. While we are on the air, let's take a look at our agendas for today. First thing, Wednesday assignment, directions. You have a new assignment today that is due Friday. It is the last one of the third quarter, I believe. And I just want to go over the directions with you, in case you're confused about what to do for it. Second, we're going to go over the revenge of Andrew Jackson, otherwise known as the election of 1828, and look at Andrew Jackson's first term in office as president, and our fun segment of the day, memes of the day, third and final segment of the day. Let's get right into it. So, on Google Classroom, you're going to see the Jackson administration assignment. I did not want you to do notes again like you did for Adams and Jefferson. This one is more straightforward. Hopefully you find it less boring than those notes. But this is what the assignment looks like on the right. So you're going to read through the article. You answer each question by typing the answers in the boxes like you see on the right. These rectangles are not just decoration. You type the answer in that box, so it's easy for me to see. So to help you, I didn't put all the questions at the end. I split the questions throughout the reading so you know where to find them. So for example, question 1, you're going to type it in that little box, but the answer to question 1 is in the paragraph above it. And then question 2, the answer is in the paragraph above that. So you know exactly where to look. This is the assignment. It is due Friday, and this should be the last one that goes on Portal before starting the fourth marking period on April 27th. That's all I need to say for the assignment. It's 14 questions. If you have any questions, please ask me. But this is our last assignment for the 6th unit, Early Republic. Second item on our agenda, the revenge of Andrew Jackson, the election of 1828, and Andrew Jackson's first term. So let's look at the Jackson administration. We're going to basically divide this one differently than we have other presidents. We used to do foreign policy, domestic policy. For Jackson, we're going to split it up first term, second term. So today we'll do the first term. Tomorrow I'll do the video on the second term. And the first thing we need to discuss is the election. So if you remember from yesterday, the election of 1824 was really controversial. Jackson won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College vote, but he lost the White House because he didn't get a majority, and there was all this corrupt backroom dealing that ended up getting John Quincy Adams the presidency. Well, Jackson did not want this to happen again, and he basically started out by starting his own party. He started the Democratic Party, the modern-day version of the Democratic Party. That's where it begins. And Jackson spent most of his time while John Quincy Adams was president, campaigning for the election in 1828. He was the first president to actually go out and campaign across the country, giving speeches, having rallies. He pretty much invented modern campaigning as we know it. And all this campaigning paid off, along with expanded voting rights. So during this time, voting rights were also expanded. Earlier, when the country first started, voting was very much restricted to people who had property or were wealthy. Now, voting rights are expanded, not to everyone, obviously. Women won't get the right to vote for nearly 100 years after this, and African Americans won't get the right to vote until later in the 1800s. But voting rights were expanded to lower class people as well, and that actually helped Jackson because he was popular amongst the lower classes. And the expansion of the voting rights ended up helping Jackson, and he wins a decisive victory in the presidential election. No corrupt bargain or House of Representatives would get to deny him the White House this time. As you see, John Quincy Adams gets voted out of office. Not a total landslide, but it's a clear win for Jackson. So Jackson's first term. Here are some of the big things that happened in his first term that we're going to discuss. Here are some of the problems facing him at the outset, though. So at this point, more Americans wanted to move westward, and Jackson felt he had to make that possible for them. Remember, America had all this land left over from the Louisiana Purchase. A lot of American settlers wanted to move west. Other big problem we have to deal with. Wealthy politicians of previous generations did not want to give up power to a president like Jackson, and Jackson tried to totally remake politics in America to make it more democratic from his point of view. He is truly a revolutionary president. The presidency is not going to be the same after Jackson. There is a reason why, starting with Jackson, the next 20 years in American history is often called the Age of Jackson. And also part of this is starting the foundations of a new political party, the Democratic Party. This is the modern Democratic Party. This is where it starts with Andrew Jackson. So Inauguration Day. Inauguration Day is the first major thing to talk about with Andrew Jackson's presidency. His inauguration day was March 4th, 1829, and that set the tone for his entire presidency. Previous inauguration days for presidents have been very quiet, solemn, private affairs. But Jackson's inauguration as the people's president, as he was known as, was the exact opposite. When you think of the inauguration today, you have parades, you have balls, you have the crowds just descending on Washington, D.C. The president had these balls to attend, like 7 different private dances and banquets. It's like a huge celebration. That kind of starts with Andrew Jackson. So on the day of his inauguration, Washington, D.C. turned into one wild party, as if the team won the Super Bowl. Regular people came to the White House to celebrate Jackson. The party even got out of hand, with lots of items being damaged inside the White House before the party moved out into the White House lawn. So it's a surreal experience. You can't imagine this today. You had just normal people coming off the street, coming into the White House to celebrate. And then dishes were broken, other things were kind of windows were smashed. The White House had not seen this much damage as the British burned it down. Wild party, moved out into the White House lawn, but it shows that Jackson was very much, for the common person. That's what his image was all about. And not everyone was happy about this, though. Jackson's enemies were shocked, and they were scandalized by what happened on Inauguration Day, and they saw it as a bad sign of things to come. The people who occupied Washington before this, but they were very these gentlemanly upper-class politicians who didn't have an appetite for all this wild stuff. And a Supreme Court Justice, Joseph Story, at this point, he ominously said of Jackson's Inauguration Day, "The reign of King Mob seemed triumphant," which meant that he thought Jackson was received like the king of a wild mob rather than a humble and reserved president like those before him. And he saw that as a bad sign. They were afraid that Jackson was going to act like a leader of a mob as opposed to a president. And here we have a painting of a scene from what the inside of the White House must have looked like during this wild party on Jackson's Inauguration Day. Spoils system. When Jackson became president, he wanted to replace officials with people he personally liked and those that supported him. Jackson's opponents criticized him for this, saying that he was just rewarding people who were loyal to him and not promoting them based on merit. But Jackson was arguing that he was allowing ordinary people to have a role in government when these jobs would previously be off limits to them and only available to someone who had connections or was in the upper class. Now, love it or hate it, this practice is now common after elections where presidents give jobs to people who supported them during the campaign. This happens even today. For example, when President Obama was in the White House, when he got elected, one of his biggest supporters was the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the owner of the Steelers was actually made the ambassador to Ireland as a job. This is kind of like the spoil system is all about. You reward the supporters. And when President Trump was elected, he made Woody Johnson, the owner of the New York Jets, the ambassador to the United Kingdom. And he still is serving as the ambassador to the United Kingdom. So this spoil system is something that it's always existed, but Jackson really just made it explicit. I'm going to promote people who supported me during the campaign and give them jobs in the government. And here we have a political cartoon kind of making fun of Jackson here. There is this old phrase called "to the victor belong the spoils." And that basically means when you're the winner, you can do what you want because you won. And this cartoon is saying that Jackson is just doing whatever he wants. He won the election and he's treating government kind of like a thing where he won and he can do whatever he wants. Worcester v. Georgia, a big Supreme Court case occurred in 1832 and had a big impact on Jackson's presidency and the nation. Case involved a Georgia law that said citizens were not allowed to visit Native American lands. The court ruled that this Georgia law was unconstitutional because Georgia law doesn't control Native American lands. The individual tribes control it. This case ruled that Native Americans have a right to stay on their land and can't be moved off of it. Jackson hated the ruling because he wanted Americans to move west and push Native Americans out. Jackson even taunted the Supreme Court Justice Marshall, saying that Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. He was implying that he was not just going to ignore the court and do what he wanted. He's saying, all right, you think that this is unconstitutional? Do something about it. And the Supreme Court doesn't really have the power to do anything because it's the executive branch who enforces the law. Now, in opposition to the Supreme Court's ruling in Worcester v. Georgia, President Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act into law, forcing over 15,000 Native Americans to leave their land and move west of the Mississippi River. The forced removal coordinated by the military was known as the Trail of Tears, as thousands of Native Americans died along the forced journey west. So the Indian Removal Act, along with the Supreme Court decision, or Jackson's opposition to the Supreme Court decision, led to Native Americans just losing their land east of the Mississippi River. And this is the map of this forced journey and the Trail of Tears. Thousands of Native Americans had to relocate to what is modern-day Oklahoma, and many died along the way. Now that is it for Jackson's first term. There's a little bit extra towards the end that I just want to wait till tomorrow to cover. But that is Jackson's first term, and you get an idea of what his presidency was all about. Controversial for his treatment of Native Americans, but on the other hand, he was also seen as a revolutionary president for making the presidency more about the common person. Now our final segment of the day, memes of the day. I got a few memes for you. Hopefully they'll give you a laugh. If not, hopefully a much-needed distraction during this time. Memes of the day. First one. World is ending. Food delivery workers. Custard Crab Pizza is the pizza for you and me. I don't know about you, but I've been ordering a lot of food lately, and I'm very thankful for all the food service workers out there who are just marching from door to door delivering pizzas. And I only wish that SpongeBob and Squidward could deliver the pizzas that I've been getting regularly, although I don't see them wearing masks, which could be a problem. Second meme of the day. Oh, we know it's boring out there. Sports. There's no sports on. There's even old sports games airing. And for some entertainment, you might have some sports commentators watching bird feeders. So we have here people in quarantine watching their bird feeders like this group of sportscasters are going wild. Can you imagine the bird feeders? I've actually literally been doing this. There's a woodpecker that has been hollowing out a place in a tree in my front yard. And I have been watching that with just as much excitement as I'd be watching the Yankees right now. Kind of shows how sad things are with no sports or any entertainment out there. And third meme of the day. Two different types of masks. Here we have on the left, this kid, Genius, some kind of channeling his inner Spider-Man 2, the best Spider-Man movie, with Spider-Man providing the back fastening to his mask. And here we have a woman who doesn't really seem to understand the concept of the antivirus mask. She thinks that having a CD over her mouth will somehow prevent her from getting a virus. I don't think it's going to work, though. Maybe if it was a Blu-ray disc. Never can tell. Alright, those are our memes of the day, and that does it for Wednesday's show. Remember, we also have the rescheduled Gimkit today at 2 o'clock. Hopefully I'll see you there. If not, have a good day, and let's get that assignment done. That is it for today's edition of LEPRE Radio.